Hi there. We're back on day 2 at the Flint greenhouses to take a tour of their plants and wanted to start here with the raspberries. Raspberries just happen to be one of my favorite things to eat, and they're great to have, and they're very prolific and they grow really well and don't require tons of water. Makes them a really good thing to grow if you like berries. I'm not sure about these. I do know that I don't know if these are the ones, these seem to have stickers. I like the stickerless variety, and I don't think there's that much difference, but these do have stickers, so just beware if you're buying certain kinds, you're going to have stickers, and you'll want to use gloves with them, because otherwise they'll really nail you with their little stickers. This Heritage is really good because it has a high tolerance for poor soil, and it's cold hardy. And the nice thing is it will produce your berries the very first year, so that's something to consider. That'd be really important. Really good for freezing and making jams and jellies. That'd be a very considerable one to buy. And it's like they have a really good supply here. On down here we have grapes. I haven't grown grapes. Grapes are good. I enjoy them. However, I found out in the last couple of years that grapes are not good for dogs. And so rather than take the chance, I just don't grow them because my dog would eat them. He loves to eat everything. So grapes are very hazardous to dogs' health. That is. Strawberries aren't here, they're over on the other side. So here's some perennials we'll look at. The Asian lilies are beautiful. I had a beautiful Asian lily, and I left it with some family members, and they let it die, and I was very sad. But this one is it's called Summer Sky, and I'm sure once it starts blooming, it will be gorgeous. They're so nice to have. I like to have Easter lilies and the really nice fragrance lilies at the beginning or the opening of front of my door. So when they greet people, they greet them with a really nice fragrance. It's really nice to have those. Oh, here's one in blossom. This one is a Asiatic lily also, but it doesn't say what color it's supposed to be, but you can see it's a really nice shade of a maroon or something like that. It's gorgeous. Lilies are very nice to have. And the Asiatic lilies come in so many nice different colors. There's a nice one in orange. Beautiful color. Okay, this is ice plant. I have had ice plant before, and it is beautiful, and it does very well in our area. In the summer, it's gorgeous. These are really, really cool plants. They grow wild in the summer in the Southern California, and they come in so many different colors. They come in a bright yellow, and then in the purple, as you can see right there. But they're beautiful, and they do just look like they're little plants made of ice. They're gorgeous. And then we have hens and chicks, which I grew up with as a child. My grandmother always had hens and chicks. They're very fun to grow as a filler because they grow well even in the poor soil, and they don't take up a lot of space, but they're very nice and blend in well with some of the other summer plants. More ice plant. And this one is really good. You can see from that one how they look so much like a piece of green ice. They're gorgeous, and they're low growing and they spread out, so you'll want to have them. They work really well in a rocky area where you can just let them spread between the rocks. And they look very nice, really cosmetically pretty. Sedum. Sedum is a nice one. I haven't grown sedum. I have grown it some, but this is called Winter Fire. So there's a picture of it. So it gets to be a brighter red. I've had it, but I have other low-growing plants that I prefer to that. Here we have a collection of grapes. These are Concord grapes. Concord grapes are very good for jam, a jelly, and juice, and to freeze. They're also ideal for freezing, especially juice. Let's see what this one is. That's another variety of grapes, but I'm not sure if it's Concord. Lakeman's. Oh, it's a black grape. I don't think I'm familiar with that. And then we're back to the beginning. Here we have some perennials. I love this plant. I've had this plant before. It's a delphinium, which I love. If you've ever done a country garden or an English garden, delphinium is a beautiful asset to that. There's a picture. Delphinium is gorgeous, and it grows to about 3 to 4 feet tall. So if you want some height in your garden, that would be something to consider. Okay, we're back at the greenhouse we were in yesterday with the vegetables. This time we're going to focus on the tomatoes. And we have, starting right here, we have this one called a Sun Gold. It's a cherry tomato, a yellow cherry tomato. And these cherry tomatoes tend to have a high amount of sugar, so it makes them really sweet, and they're really tasty, nice for snacks and salads. Looks like the wind caught this one a little bit. Then I'm moving on down here, we have more. There's a Sun Sugar, which is also a cherry tomato, a yellow cherry tomato. I'm not familiar with that one. The yellow pear tomato. Back there we have a Sugar Gloss cherry tomato. It's a red one. And it has the growing habits that I was used to as a kid. That's the kind of we grew as kids. But then I became familiar with the Super Sweet 100, and that's my favorite. It grows hundreds of cherry tomatoes, and they are so sweet, and they're so good in salad and just to eat. I like to sit down with a book and a handful of those tomatoes and just enjoy while I read a book. They make a very, very nice snack. I'm not familiar with these, but this is called a Big Mama tomato. It appears to be like a Roma variety. So it notes that it's really good for, it gets really large, and it's very good for tomato sauce and pasta sauce and canning. So if you're canning, that would be one to consider. And here we have, I think this is an Italian variety of tomato because it's made for Italian cooking, for canning and drying, and it makes great tomato paste. So that would be something to think about for preserving, using all year. It's an heirloom, and I talked about heirloom seeds before, so I'll get back to you on heirloom seeds again and talk about why heirloom seeds are wonderful for growing in your garden. Here is the variety I'm used to for aroma tomato. This is called Aroma 4 red tomato. It's bright red, as those are typically, and it does very well for canning and for using in pasta, and it's really heavily packed with the meat in it is just so thick. That's why it makes such good pasta sauce. Not familiar with this, but it's also, since it's an Amish paste Roma tomato, and they also have good, you'll notice it says great flesh or excellent for use in canning pastes or sauces. And so anything like that is what you want to look for when you're going to make sauce or can sauce or tomato paste. I'm not familiar with this black Krim tomato, but my son was talking to me about it when he worked in one of the greenhouses. It looks like it's got a problem, like a disease or something, but that's its natural coloring. When you cut it open, it has these, I guess it's a blue, kind of splotchy look about it, but that's just, it's the way it is when it grows. That's the color it is. It's natural. And it has a slightly salt flavor, so that's interesting. That might be an interesting thing to put in a salad. Never tried it, so I can't say. But it is definitely interesting. This is another meaty tomato. This is what I grew up with. My family used to use this one. It's called beefsteak, and it's an old-fashioned sort of tomato, one we were used to. And the nice thing about it is it knows that it's a nice slicer, but it's also disease resistant. That's important because tomatoes can get diseases that come out of the ground. And so if you can get a disease resistant one, you're all the better. But I've mixed this tomato with the Roma tomatoes for paste, and it works very well. So that's one to consider. And the other one that I'm familiar with is Better Boy, which has always been a really good quality tomato, and they get huge. You can practically fill up one jar with one tomato because they're so large. And it notes that they get to be 16 ounces or 1 pound if they're well cared for. They will grow till frost, and they have the right balance of acid and sugar, so it makes them a nice tomato to use for making pasta and pasta sauce. Big beef. Here we have what's called a big beef tomato. I'm not as familiar with this one as I am the Better Boy, but it's another disease-resistant one you could consider. It notes that the fruit, it's a vigorous growth, and it will set fruit reliably even when it's cool. So before it starts turning really cold, they'll still continue to produce. So that's something that might be of interest to some people if they want to keep processing tomatoes till frost. I'm not familiar with this. It's interesting. Here we have another heirloom tomato called Brandywine. Not familiar with it, but there's usually a good reason some tomatoes that are heirloom are still around because that means they're good quality and, as it says here, a heavy producer. And they are in the beefsteak variety, which means that they have really dense, firm flesh, and that makes for a really great pasta sauce. This one is called a Bush Champion 2 tomato, and it's ideal for small spaces if you're growing tomatoes in a small garden or containers. This one grows really well. I may need to use that one this year since I don't have a big garden space for tomatoes. But it also has a really meaty texture, and it has compact size, so it doesn't take up a lot of space. It still produces a really good tomato with great flavor, and it has the disease resistance in its history. And nice looking plants, a nice color of green. Celebrity, I have grown celebrities before, and they're a good tomato. I don't find them to be good for pasta sauce, but they're great for cutting up in salad and slicing for sandwiches. They make a great tomato for that. This one I'm familiar with. This is another one I have had a history with, Beefmaster. It's kind of like the beefsteak tomato, very meaty and disease resistant. It is a hybrid. It does really well, and it's won so many awards because of all the positive aspects of it. It has large size, and it's just a great all-around tomato. I don't recall that I've used it for canning, but I might have. But it does it's heavy bearing, so it'll produce a lot of tomatoes. I've never heard of that one. Yeah, see, that's what they do with the ones that are colored, slicing and grating salads. This one is a Lemon Boy tomato. I'm not familiar with it. I've had yellow tomatoes before, but I've never grown them. But they are very beautiful for a salad, and they are great for slicing for sandwiches. So I would probably grow one of those just to have it for that reason. There's one here called the 4th of July tomato I'm not familiar with, but this one's a quick grower. It says it's available for use in 49 days. That's pretty amazing. That's pretty short growing season for that. Early girl, I've tried these before. I usually would plant one early girl plant just to have tomatoes as possible for salads and sandwiches, and it makes it nice to have something like that so that you know you're going to have tomatoes early in the summer. So that's something you can consider at the time. They do have a good flavor. I'm not familiar with Rutgers. I've heard of them, but not one I've grown. nice that this one has it has great longevity, and it's resistant to cracking, and that's important. I've had some beautiful tomatoes, but they ended up with cracks in them, and it kind of messes it up when you're trying to use them for a slicing tomato. So that's kind of a nice thought, to have a tomato that does not get big cracks in it because of the sun. So that's something to consider. I am familiar with this one. This is supposed to be a really good tomato. I believe someone gave me some starts of Super Fantastic tomato, and they're very, very nice. But I typically go back to beefsteak. They are a type of beefsteak, but I go back to the original beefsteak usually. These tomatoes are called delicious. I'm not familiar with those. Let's see if I can get some. They're supposed to be a meaty tomato also. I tend to go with the ones I'm familiar with and have had experience with. But these look like they could be a really good possibility. They say they know that they're a meaty tomato, so I assume it would be a good pasta sauce tomato. So that's something to think about. If you don't have some kind of beefsteak tomato available, those would be good. Tomatillos I don't usually grow, but I understand they make great salsa, and a lot of people I know use them in their hot sauces for Mexican dishes, and so it's very popular with people who are used to that, and Hispanic, and people who are familiar with using hot sauce. Red cherry hot pepper. I'm not a hot pepper fan, personally. I don't do hot peppers, but if you're good with hot peppers and you'd like to use them in just different dishes, this might be one for you. It's interesting. I've never really seen them before. I don't know how large they get. It says, doesn't say how large they get, but I don't think they get very big. You can see by the picture it's not very large, but a little bit goes a long way with hot peppers. Better Bell. I have used Better Bell plants. I like them very much. They grow a great green pepper. I love to, in fact, I may buy one of those today. It's California Wonder. That's another brand, and it notes that it's a disease-resistant green bell. Let's see if this one doesn't say, but Better Bell I'm familiar with. They do very well. This is more of the California Wonder. These are bell peppers that get to be red when they're totally grown. I usually just get those from one of the greenhouses because I don't need a lot of red bell pepper. They have some really nice plants. These plants are very healthy and should do a good job. Cayenne peppers. I'm not into cayenne peppers. It's a super hot pepper, and it's good for pickling or using in canning. I'm not a fan of hot, spicy pepper, but if you are, This is one you might want to look at. It's the fruit gets to be, as you can see in the picture, it's long, elongated and narrow fruit. A lot of people dry them and use them make flakes out of it and use it in their cooking. We did this yesterday. So before we leave this greenhouse, I wanted to point out the strawberries here. Strawberries happen to be my favorite. Strawberries and raspberries are my absolute favorite berries, and these look very good. The plants are healthy. I was going to check them and see what kind they are. I'm not familiar with that brand. I like to get the strawberries that are ever-bearing because they will produce up until it gets really hot, and then they will stop producing, but then when it starts cooling down, they will produce again until frost. So I think that's a really good consideration when you're buying strawberries or raspberries. That's a sequoia. That's a little different. I'm not familiar with sequoia. Does it say if it's ever-bearing? These are June-bearing strawberries. It's called a sequoia, probably because I imagine because the plants get really large. So I assume that they make for a lot of berries when this starts to get to the point where you're harvesting them. But I like June-bearing, but I think ever-bearing work better for me because I use a lot of strawberries in making jam and cooking, and just liking to eat them with ice cream or just for a little side thing on your breakfast plate. Trying to see what these all are. These are herbs. That looks like sage. Yeah, this is sage. Let's see what this is. It's sage too. I think that's rosemary. Let's see. Rosemary, yeah. Ready? Okay. Let's see. Okay. Okay, on to the next greenhouse. But I must say, as we leave, they have a nice selection of herbs of all kinds you want to check out and make sure you have the kind of herbs you need. How much cages on it? $20. Wow. Those are very good quality ones. Okay, now we're in the annual flowers section, and I wanted to point out the beautiful hanging baskets up there. They're so gorgeous. If you use the zonal or the cascading petunias mixed with other plants, flowers, you can make a beautiful hanging basket that looks great on your patio. Got a variety of colors here. I like that one. That's pretty. There's so many to choose from, it's hard to make a choice. And they have so much fragrance. Walking by them, they smell so good. These are some of the more traditional petunias, but the others over here are the cascading or else the zonal ones. These are fantastic for flower beds. Now this group right here, flower beds and borders. And they do make a nice border flower. Depends on the height you want in your border. If you want a lower border, you might find something that's a little lower than this, like the purple plant I love so much. I can't think of the name of it right now. It's in the other building, and I was looking at it. But these make a great border as well. Let's see what else we got here. This is sedum. Nice foliage it makes. Oh, the licorice plant. I love this one. I happen to be one who loves licorice. And this smells so good. I love it. Let's see, and then of course one of my favorites for growing in a big pot are the green potato plant. It's called a sweet potato plant, but its real name is Ipomoea, and they're gorgeous, and it's really nice to use as a contrast in a pot with a bright red or bright orange flower. It looks very, very nice, and it's really lush. It really does great things for your decorating in your pots. Let's see how you see. I'm not clear with that. We have geraniums here. I don't always do very well with geraniums. They start out really nice, but then they get to the point where they don't flower well. So I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I need to find out what I need to do differently. The geraniums are nice or in a pot. Petunias. These are the flower bed varieties that you can put as borders or mix in with other annuals. Alyssum. I love alyssum. I love to put it in between other flowers, and I love the white and the purple both. It's hard to choose which I like better, but it's a very prolific, hardy growing flower, and it looks very great. It looks great as a border in your flower beds, and it'll liven things up. This lobelia. This is a great border. I really like this one. Lobelia is gorgeous. I had a friend who used to always put lobelia in his flower beds all the way around, ringed his flower beds with lobelia, then put petunias and other flowers inside, and it always looked so bright and cheerful. Made for a great flower bed. Moss roses. This is what I grew up with as a child. My grandmother always had her container or flower bed full of moss roses, and they always look so nice, and they're very prolific. If you have an area you just need a little bright spot, moss roses are very nice for that. Hi there, we're back from Flint Greenhouses, and I wanted to give a shout out to them for allowing us to do some videoing of their plants and flowers. And I'm here with my sidekick, my boy Ollie, who is always here with me when I'm out here working in my plants. Wanted to remind you that what you put in your yard is your decision. Be sure you check out all the possibilities and know what you want and make a plan when you're making your choices of flowers or vegetables in your garden. It's all up to you. And we'll see you next time.